My husband is currently celebrating with a $600 bottle of champagne, toasting his victory with the woman he thinks I don't know about. He believes the document I signed an hour ago gives him ownership of my family estate, a mansion worth $4 million that my grandmother left me. He thinks he's won, that he's outsmarted me, that he's finally getting what he deserves after years of supporting my career. What he doesn't realize is that the paper he's waving around like a trophy is actually a signed confession to felony fraud. By tomorrow morning, he won't be a wealthy divorcee celebrating his freedom. He'll be a defendant facing federal charges, eviction from my home, and the very real possibility of prison time. If you're watching this, drop a comment telling me where you're from, because this story is about what happens when someone underestimates the woman who built an empire while he was spending her money on his mistress. The silence at 6 a.m. used to be my favorite time of day, before the phone calls started, before the crisis management, before the meetings that determined whether companies survived or collapsed. I'm Victoria Ashford, and I run Ashford Crisis Management. We're the firm corporations call when everything is on fire. Data breaches, executive scandals, product recalls. We fix disasters before they destroy reputations. I built this company from nothing, started in a studio apartment with one client and a second-hand laptop. 10 years later, we manage 8-figure contracts with Fortune 500 companies. But this morning, the disaster wasn't at a client's office. It was in my home. I walked into my study, the one room in the house that was supposed to be off limits, and found the door standing open. My husband, Dylan, was sitting at my desk, not working, not looking for something, sitting in my chair with his feet propped on my mahogany desk like he owned the place. He was wearing the expensive suit I'd bought him 3 months ago for what he claimed was an important networking event that turned out to be drinks with his college friends. "Sign these," he said. Not "good morning," not "how did you sleep," just a command, accompanied by a stack of legal documents he tossed across the desk. I set my coffee down carefully. "You broke into my filing cabinet." "Our filing cabinet," Dylan corrected with a smirk. "Marriage is a partnership, 50-50. That's how it works." I looked at the lock on the cabinet. It wasn't picked, it was pried open with a screwdriver. The metal was twisted and damaged. "You destroyed property to access confidential client files," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Do you understand what you're holding? Some of these documents have security clearances attached, federal regulations, non-disclosure agreements." "I don't care about your NDAs," Dylan snapped. Then he caught himself, smoothed his expression back into the rehearsed confidence he'd been practicing. "I care about equity, fair compensation for my contributions." He picked up a yellow legal pad covered in frantic scribbling, numbers, arrows, circles drawn with the energy of someone who thinks they've cracked a conspiracy. "I've been doing the math," he announced, standing up and attempting to loom over me. "For 6 years, I've supported you. While you were out building your little company, who was here? Who managed the household? Who provided the emotional stability you needed to succeed?" "The housekeeper," I said flatly, "and the landscaping crew, and the pool service, all of whom I pay." Dylan's face flushed red. "I managed them. I oversaw household operations. That is labor, Victoria. That is value. And my lawyer says it entitles me to significant marital assets." "Your lawyer," I repeated. "You mean Jason Reed, the guy who advertises on bus benches?" "Jason Reed is a shark," Dylan said, "and he's prepared these documents. You're going to sign over the deed to this house, the cabin, and 50% equity in your firm's future earnings, or I file for a contested divorce tomorrow morning." He leaned closer, his breath smelling like the whiskey he'd been drinking since noon. "Think about it, Victoria. A contested divorce means public records, allegations of neglect, financial audits. How will your high-profile clients react when Ashford Crisis Management is drowning in its own scandal? Will Goldman Sachs trust you with their reputation when your own husband is exposing yours? It was blackmail, pure, calculated blackmail. You have until tonight, Dylan said, checking the Rolex I'd bought him for our anniversary. 7 p.m. Have these signed or Jason files the petition first thing tomorrow. He grabbed his briefcase, expensive, brand new, and completely empty, and walked out. I waited until I heard his car leave. Then I picked up the legal pad he'd abandoned. His list of demands was breathtaking. The mansion, the cabin, the Porsche, my grandmother's jewelry collection, shares in my company. He hadn't just listed marital property. He'd listed things I'd owned for a decade before we met, things he had no legal claim to whatsoever. I reached for my phone. My hand was completely steady. "Jennifer," I said when my lawyer answered, "clear your schedule. We have a situation." 30 minutes later, I was at my office when my assistant, Sophie, came running. Sophie never ran. Sophie was the woman who'd organized press conferences during active protests. If she was rattled, something was very wrong. "Victoria," she said breathlessly, "we need to talk. Now." In my office, with the door closed, she placed a folder on my desk. "I got a flag from accounting yesterday. I didn't want to alarm you until I was sure." I opened the folder. Transaction logs from our joint household account. "Dylan's been making transfers," Sophie said. "Small ones at first, testing the system. 500 here, 200 there. But 3 days ago, he moved $60,000 to a new account at First National Bank." 60,000, I repeated, my voice hollow. "That's the property tax reserve." "It gets worse." Sophie pulled out her tablet. "The account isn't just in his name. It's a joint account with someone named Amber Sterling." She showed me an Instagram profile. Amber Sterling, 24 years old, fitness influencer, life coach. The photos were the usual: gym selfies, green smoothies, motivational quotes about living your best life. But Sophie tapped on one specific photo. "Look at her wrist," she said softly. I zoomed in. Amber was holding a protein shake, smiling at the camera. On her wrist was a diamond bracelet. My diamond bracelet, the one Dylan claimed he'd taken for repairs 3 weeks ago. "And this one," Sophie said, swiping to the next photo. Amber was sitting in the driver's seat of a Mercedes, a convertible with distinctive beige leather interior. My Mercedes, the one I kept in the garage under a cover. "He's giving her my jewelry," I said, my voice flat. "He's letting her drive my car." "I ran a background check," Sophie said. "Amber works as a personal trainer at the gym Dylan joined 6 months ago, the membership you pay for." I looked at the transaction log again. One line caught my eye. "Jason Reed, legal retainer, $7,500. He paid his divorce lawyer with our joint account," I said, almost laughing. "He's suing me with my own money." My phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. "Don't forget, 7 p.m. deadline. Let's keep this civil." Civil? After stealing from me, after giving my possessions to his girlfriend, after breaking into my files and threatening my business? "What do you want me to do?" Sophie asked. "Get Marcus from IT, I said, standing up. "I want a complete digital forensic analysis of everything Dylan's accessed. Every email, every text, every search. If he used our Wi-Fi, I want to know what he looked for." "And the accounts?" "Don't freeze them yet. If we tip him off now, he'll hide the money he's already stolen. We wait, we document, and when we move decisively." An hour later, I was on the phone with Jennifer when the office emergency alarm went off. The red alert was something I'd installed for catastrophes, data breaches, server fires, federal raids. It had never activated in real life. Marcus, my IT security chief, burst into my office. "We have a breach," he said, sweating. "The Goldman files are leaking. Someone's downloading the classified documents." My blood ran cold. The Goldman Sachs contract was worth $20 million annually. A data leak would mean lawsuits, bankruptcy, potentially criminal charges. "Shut it down," I ordered. "Kill the connection." "I tried," Marcus yelled, typing frantically. "It's bypassing all our security. It's using your admin credentials. The access is coming from your home office." I froze. "My house?" "Someone is logged into your secure computer right now. They're downloading everything to an external drive." Dylan. He wasn't just stealing documents for the divorce, he was stealing classified corporate data. He was planning to sell it. "Get the car," I shouted to Sophie. I ran to the parking garage and drove like hell. The 20-minute drive took 12. I ran every red light. When I screeched into my driveway, Dylan's car was gone. I burst into the study. The computer was dark. I touched the keyboard. System update complete. Nothing. No transfer, no breach, no files open. My phone rang. Marcus. "Victoria, the alert stopped. It wasn't real. Someone triggered a simulation, a ghost protocol that mimics a data breach. It was activated manually from inside your network." I looked around the study. The filing cabinet was open again, and the safe behind the painting, the one only I knew the combination to, was also open. Empty. My grandmother's emerald ring, the emergency cash reserve, $15,000, my passport, all gone. He'd triggered a false alarm. He knew I'd panic and race home. He used the chaos to buy himself time to come back, rob the safe, and disappear. I'd been played. I walked outside and found my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, watering her garden. "Did you see Dylan?" I asked. "Oh yes, about 20 minutes ago. He came home in a rush, ran inside, carrying a metal box. He looked very pleased with himself. He'd tricked me into a panic so he could rob me blind." I went back inside and sat on the floor of my study. The rage that had been burning hot was now cold, hard, and calculating. "Okay, Dylan," I whispered. "You want to play games? Let's play." I met Jennifer Chen at a quiet restaurant downtown, far from my office and home. Jennifer was a legend in divorce law. She'd represented CEOs, celebrities, and one particularly nasty case involving a senator and his intern. She wore designer suits and had a reputation for destroying opposing counsel. She was drinking espresso when I arrived. I slammed Dylan's separation agreement on the table. "She wants the house, the cabin, half my business." Jennifer put on her reading glasses and scanned the document. She didn't look worried. She looked amused. "This is garbage," she said. "It's a template he downloaded from the internet. Look, he's citing California community property law. We're in New York." "I have a lawyer," I said. "Jason Reed." "Jason Reed couldn't win a parking ticket appeal," Jennifer said. She sipped her coffee. "But here's what's interesting. Look at what he's demanding specifically." She pointed to a line. "The deed to the property at 847 Riverside Drive." "My house," I said. "He wants me to sign it over." "And the cabin in Vermont, and your investment accounts." Jennifer smiled slowly. "Victoria, who owns the house?" "I do. I bought it before the marriage with my grandmother's money." "Think carefully," Jennifer said. "Do you personally own it?" I paused. Years ago, my accountant had insisted on setting up protections, liability shields, asset protection. "The trust," I said slowly, "the Ashford Family Trust." "Exactly," Jennifer said. "The house, the cabin, your primary investment accounts, they're all held by the trust. You're the beneficiary, but the trust is the legal owner. You can't personally sign over property you don't personally own." I stared at her. "Only the trustee can transfer those assets, and that requires a formal process, documentation, witnesses, board approval." Jennifer leans forward. "Dylan knows about the trust. He signed acknowledgement papers when you got married. He complained about it because it meant his name couldn't go on the deed. So he knows," I said, "that the property is held by a separate legal entity. And yet here he is," Jennifer tapping the document, "demanding that you personally transfer assets to him as part of a marital settlement. Assets you legally cannot transfer." I saw where she was going. "If you sign this," Jennifer interrupted, "you're signing a document that has zero legal power to transfer the property. It's worthless. But for him to accept this document, to try to enforce it, to claim ownership of property he knows belongs to a trust, that's fraud." "Specifically?" Jennifer asked. "Specifically, attempting to defraud a trust entity, and since he listed the Vermont cabin, which crosses state lines, if he tries to file this across jurisdictions—" "Federal fraud," I finished. "Exactly. Jennifer pulled a pen from her purse. Let him have his victory. Let him think he won. Let him take the paper and celebrate. The moment he tries to enforce it, the moment he tries to sell it, rent it, or evict you, we drop the hammer. We don't just divorce him, Victoria. We prosecute him. I took the pen. He wants a signature? I'll give him a signature. I arrived home at 6:55 p.m. The house was dimly lit. Dylan had set up candles, my expensive diptyque candles that I saved for special occasions. The dining table was set with my grandmother's antique china. On those delicate hand-painted plates sat cardboard containers of takeout Thai food. It was a perfect metaphor for our marriage, my heritage being used to serve his cheap convenience. Dylan was waiting, dressed in a tuxedo, an actual tuxedo, like he was attending a gala instead of blackmailing his wife. "You're late," he said, pouring wine into a crystal glass. "Traffic," I lied. I sat down. Dylan remained standing, pacing the room, swirling his wine like he was in a movie. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Victoria," he began, "about us, about our trajectory." It was rehearsed, every word practiced. "I'm a visionary," Dylan continued. "I see things other people don't, opportunities, potential, and I've realized I've been held back by you, by this marriage." "Held back," I repeated flatly. "You've built this successful company, sure, but you did it on my foundation, my emotional labor, my sacrifice. And now it's time for me to be compensated for that investment." He pulled out the papers I'd seen that morning. "Sign these and we can part as friends. I get what I've earned, you keep your business, and we both move forward." I looked at the documents. My house, my cabin, my grandmother's jewelry, 50% of my company's future earnings. "And if I don't sign?" Dylan's smile turned cold. "Then Jason files tomorrow, and we do this the ugly way. Public depositions, financial audits. Your clients will see you can't even manage your own household. Your reputation, the thing you've built your entire business on, will be destroyed." He set the pen down in front of me. "7 o'clock, Victoria. What's it going to be?" I picked up the pen. I looked at the signature line. Dylan was already smiling, already celebrating in his mind. I signed my name, clear, legible, official. Dylan snatched the papers before the ink was dry. He held them up to the light like he was checking for watermarks.
Aisha's story matters now for every global viewer. It shows that legal systems can be leveraged against the ultra-rich. It proves that collective truth can defeat individual power. The short-term consequence was financial and legal justice. The court found in favor of the four women. Julian Thorne was ordered to pay a massive settlement, reportedly one of the largest non-injury-related payouts in recent history. His reputation was utterly destroyed. His image as a benevolent billionaire was shattered forever. Her long-term consequence is the Thorne Clause. According to sources, the landmark ruling led to the unofficial creation of the Thorne Clause. This is a legal term that refers to prenuptial agreements designed to silence or harm vulnerable parties. Legal experts now use this case to challenge abusive prenuptial agreements in the U.S. and U.K. For the target viewer in the U.S. and U.K., this is a lesson in thin-scene financial control. We must question the silence around powerful figures. We must understand that marriage, immigration, and financial laws can be weaponized. A simple prediction is that Aisha will become a strong advocate. She will use the settlement money to create a foundation. This foundation will help women from developing countries who are trapped in abusive international marriages. She will break the cycle of fear. I'll explain why in a moment that Julian's actions were not just about greed. They were about dominance and a God complex. He enjoyed the feeling of saving someone only to destroy them later. His wealth was not enough. He needed total emotional and legal mastery over others.
"Smart choice," he said. "I'll have Jason file these tomorrow morning." The transfers should take a few days to process, but by next week we'll be officially separated. You can keep the business, I'll take the real assets." He poured himself more wine. "To new beginnings." I stood up. "Dylan, can I ask you something?" "What?" "The trust, the Ashford family trust that holds the property titles, did you ever read the documentation?" His smile faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" "The papers you signed when we got married, the acknowledgement that the house and cabin are held in trust, not in my personal name." "I know about the trust," Dylan said, waving dismissively. "That doesn't matter. You benefit from it. You live in the house. That makes it marital property." "Actually," I said calmly, "it doesn't. The trust is a separate legal entity. I can't transfer property I don't personally own. Only the trustee can do that, through a formal legal process." Dylan stared at me. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the document you're holding is worthless. It has no legal power to transfer the deed. But what it does have," I pulled out my phone and took a photo of him holding the papers, "is your signature demanding property you know you have no claim to. Property held by a trust you acknowledged 6 years ago." The color drained from his face. "That's fraud, Dylan. Attempted fraud against a trust entity, and since you included the Vermont cabin, that's federal fraud." "You tricked me," he whispered. "No," I said. "You tricked yourself. You got greedy. You thought you could intimidate me into signing away my family's legacy, but you forgot the most important rule of crisis management. Always know the terrain before you start a war." I walked to the door and opened it. Standing on the porch was Jennifer, accompanied by 2 police officers. "Dylan Ashford," one officer said, "we have a warrant for your arrest for attempted fraud, theft of marital assets, and violation of federal computer fraud laws." "Computer fraud?" Dylan sputtered. "The fake data breach this morning," I said. "Marcus traced it back to your laptop. You used my credentials to trigger the alarm, which constitutes unauthorized access to a computer system. That's a federal crime." "You can't do this," Dylan said as the officers handcuffed him. "Victoria, we can work this out." "We're done working things out. Now you're getting a clean break. Enjoy your new accommodations. I hear the county jail has excellent emotional support programs." They led him away, still protesting, still not understanding how completely he'd been outmaneuvered. The next morning, I was back in my office when Sophie brought me coffee and the morning news. Dylan had been formally charged with multiple counts of fraud, theft, and computer crimes. His lawyer, Jason Reed, had dropped him as a client the moment he realized the scope of what Dylan had attempted. The joint bank account had been frozen. Every penny Dylan had transferred to Amber's account was being recovered. The Mercedes, the jewelry, the cash, all of it was being returned. Amber Sterling, his 24-year-old girlfriend, had posted a tearful Instagram story about being deceived by a manipulative older man and how she was focusing on her healing journey. She'd blocked Dylan on all platforms. "There's more," Sophie said, pulling up an email. "Amber reached out to our office. She wants to give a statement." "About what?" "Apparently, Dylan told her you were basically separated and that the divorce was amicable. He said the house was his, that he'd made all the money, and that you were just a glorified secretary who took credit for his business ideas." I almost laughed. "What else did she say?" "She said when she found out the truth, that you built the company, that he'd stolen from you, that he'd lied about everything, she felt sick. She's offering to testify if needed." "Tell her thank you," I said, "but we won't need it. Dylan signed his confession when he accepted that document." Jennifer called an hour later. "The DA is offering Dylan a plea deal, 3 years if he returns all assets, pays restitution, and agrees not to contest the divorce. Will he take it?" "If he's smart. If he goes to trial, he's looking at 7 to 10 years federal time. The computer fraud charge alone carries a 5-year minimum. And the divorce? Fast-tracked. I'm filing the papers this afternoon. You'll be officially single in 6 months. He gets nothing, you keep everything, and he's prohibited from contacting you or coming within 500 feet of your property. Good. 2 weeks later, I was working late in my study, the same study where Dylan had threatened me, when I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Victoria? Dylan's voice was small, defeated. They're letting me make one call before sentencing. I said nothing. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry for all of it. The stealing, the lying, the everything. I thought I deserved more. I thought you owed me. I didn't owe you anything, I said quietly. I gave you a home, a life, opportunities you never would have had on your own, and you responded by stealing from me and trying to destroy everything I built. I know. His voice broke. I thought I was smarter than you. I thought I could outsmart the crisis management expert. How stupid was that? Very, I said. But you taught me something valuable, Dylan. What? That I was too trusting, too willing to see the best in people. You cured me of that. So, thank you. I hung up before he could respond. 6 months later, the divorce was final. Dylan was serving his sentence at a minimum security facility upstate. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was working in the prison library, teaching other inmates computer skills. The irony wasn't lost on me. I sold the Mercedes convertible. I couldn't drive it without thinking about Amber Sterling posting selfies in it. I donated the money to a women's legal defense fund. I kept everything else: the house, the cabin, the company, my grandmother's jewelry, my reputation intact. Ashford Crisis Management actually grew after the scandal. Turns out, clients respect someone who can handle their own crisis as efficiently as they handle everyone else's. I'm often asked if I regret signing that document, if I regret giving Dylan the rope to hang himself. I don't, not for a second, because here's what I learned. Sometimes the best way to defeat someone isn't to fight them head on. It's to let them think they've won, let them celebrate, let them get comfortable in their victory, and then you pull the rug out from under them. Dylan thought he was smarter than me. He thought years of watching me work meant he understood strategy. But watching a chess master doesn't make you a chess master. It just makes you a spectator. He played checkers. I played chess. And in the end, he checkmated himself. If you're watching this and you're dealing with someone who's trying to manipulate you, intimidate you, or steal from you, remember this. Document everything. Stay calm, get good legal advice, and never let them see you coming. Because the best revenge isn't getting even. It's watching them destroy themselves while you stand back and let justice take its course. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share if this story resonated with you. Drop a comment telling me where you're from and whether you've ever dealt with someone who underestimated you. Remember, never underestimate the woman who spent her career managing disasters, because when you become the disaster, she already knows how to handle you. Stay strong, stay smart, and never sign anything without reading it twice.